What's up guys, I got a brand new video for you today. We're looking at the Weebill Lab today. I want to thank Zhiyun for sending this out to me that we can check out and do a review on. When I first saw this gimbal like 6 months ago or whenever they announced the prototype, I was like, yeah, that looks kind of weird because it's got like the handle out the back and everything. But after I started using it, I realized I like the design style that they've used. Being able to take the tripod off and stick it on the back and use it as an underslung handle, it's a really cool idea. This gimbal's super lightweight, easy to pack up. They put 3 locks on each motor, so you can basically lock it up when you're not using it and put it away. It lays nice and flat. So if you're putting it in a backpack or something like that, instead of the included carrying case, you can just slide it in there. You don't have to worry about the arms flinging around or breaking off or bending. Now, as you can tell, this gimbal's made for smaller cameras, something like the Sony A7iii series, or I don't know, like the Fuji X-T30. You could probably use an X-T3 on it. You have to use lighter lenses. Right now I've got an A7iii on it, and I've got the 55 f1.8 on it. So as long as you're mounting super light lenses to it, it'll be able to handle it. They've rated it at 6.6 pounds, but I think that's really dependent on the length of the lens you're using, because you could use a lighter lens on it, but if the lens is too long, you can't actually pull the camera back. So the intention is for using lighter cameras. I've actually used the RX105 on it just to see how light you can actually go, because I know some of the larger gimbals don't really like when it has that little of weight on it. So you can use point and shoot cameras on it as well. So I had no problem getting really good, nice, smooth footage with this. I was a little worried because the gimbal is kind of light. The lower half of the gimbal is plastic, but the upper half is metal. And you know, when you get kind of lighter when it comes to stabilization, it's not quite as stable versus something heavier. But the nice thing is it does a really good job. And like I said, it's made for smaller, lighter cameras. We're shooting at like -12. I want to say thanks to Francis for shooting behind the scenes and freezing his hands off. And yeah, we got some really good footage with this thing. It was super cold, it worked like a champ, no issues there. And I also shot with it in a wedding. Can't really show you guys all the footage from that, but just to say I used it, and it's really easy to get it up and going. It's super quick to balance and everything like that. So that's one of the things I really like about this gimbal, is it's just really easy to set up and go. And what I mean about that is probably one of the underrated things that no one might talk about, and that's the quick release plate that's also on another quick release plate. So this plate just locks into the other plate, and you can just take this off. I gotta disconnect the USB cable, but the motor and everything will stay on this little smaller release plate, and then you can just click it in here when you're done. And if you want to click it back in, you just lock it down. Boom. So the layout on this gimbal is a little bit different than some of the other gimbals. Right now I have it in pan follow, so it'll basically pan with me, but it won't follow me. And if you want it to go into follow mode, you have to push in the trigger on the front, and then it'll go into follow mode. Then on the side here, you can switch down to L, which is lock mode, which means the gimbal will just keep the camera in the same spot. Then you can click POV, which puts it into a follow mode, which follows the roll axis as well. Or you can put it into V, which is kind of like the vortex mode, which you can actually do those really cool vortex shots, or the inception mode. I was told there's a new firmware, and you can triple click the LV button and it'll actually lock out all the buttons in case you don't want to hit them by accident. And then you just triple click again, and then you can resume using your buttons. So one of the new features that Zhiyun's putting into their gimbals is the wireless image transmission. This one doesn't have HDMI, but you can still do it through the USB with different cameras. With the Sony it works, and basically plug USB into the camera and then plug the USB into the back of the gimbal here. And it will transmit your image to your phone through its own Wi-Fi connection. And from there you can actually change your camera settings and the gimbal settings and everything just off your phone. It's not too bad. There is a tiny bit of latency. Depending on how fussy you are, you might not be able to pull focus that way, but otherwise you would just hook a normal monitor up to it. And another thing is you can actually see the back of the screen because they've got the motor on a 45-degree angle. So maybe you don't even need a monitor at all. So setting up a motion time-lapse is really easy once you get your camera connected up to it. You click the little camera top left and then go to moving time-lapse. Then you gotta set your first starting point. So I'm gonna pan the camera over here. I'm gonna hit the plus button. Then I'm gonna pan the camera where I want it to end, and then I'll hit the next point. And then when I'm done, I'll hit next, and then you go into your time intervals and your duration, and then hit start. And it'll position the camera back to the start, and you're good to go. So right now I have the servo follow focus on it. This doesn't come with the lower end kit. They sent me the creator package, so that actually comes with a few other different things like the servo motor, the transmount tripod, the transmount holder for the cell phone, as well as a belt that you can actually wear and mount your monopod off that belt and kind of do like jib type movements. So this gimbal does have a wheel on the side, so you can do follow focus or use it as a zoom function as well. Can't do them both at the same time, but I found that the autofocus is so good on these cameras now that you could just use it as a zoom feature, and then you could do cool things like the dolly zoom effect, or even just zooming in and out whenever you want to get that. That's basically it. This gimbal is really well made. I really like the design of it. It takes 2 batteries. They last about 6 hours. And like I mentioned, I really like this quick release plate, how you can just pop the camera on and off. And one other thing I think is really cool is they've designed these 1/4-20 mount quick release connectors that you can quickly take the tripod off the bottom and stick it to the top. And I think these are really cool. You could probably use these for anything, even like monitors and things like that if you want to pop them on and off. A few things that I found a little annoying as I was using it, definitely when you're going into the underslung mode and being able to use follow mode, you have to reach under and grab the trigger because there is no way to do it. There is no dedicated follow mode. I wish there was just a switch that you could switch it into follow mode, but unfortunately you have to use the trigger. I also found because it's a small and light gimbal setup, if you're trying to get in close to get those little orbit shots, I find that you start seeing a little bit of movements and shakes. Something that you don't really get with the heavier gimbal systems, but when you're just doing walking and things like that, it's not that big of a deal. And the last thing, when I was talking about these 1/4-20 quick release plates, it'd be awesome if you could leave them on the gimbal so that you could just pop them on and off when you want to use them. Unfortunately, in the case, there isn't a cutout for these, so you can't leave these on when you want to put the gimbal back in the case. I guess I could cut out notches for it, but just one thing I noticed. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. That's the Weebill Lab. If you're thinking about picking one up, I'll put links down in the description where to get that. I think this one does come in at around $5.99, and that's without the servo follow focus. If you want to get that or the creative package, I'll also put that down in the description as well. It's a nice little gimbal. I really like it, and I think you guys will like it too if you're thinking about getting a smaller, lighter gimbal setup, because I know a lot of you guys are rocking the A6300 or the A6400, and this is a nice setup for a camera that size. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.